The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para-X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Oh, hell no!
Whatever.
The following program contains opinions expressed by the Dead Zone. If you find this broadcast offensive, lighten up, candy ass.
What?
Oh my gosh.
It's a radio show.
Hell yeah! That's what I'm talking about.
Power up request received. Initiating systems. Powering up transmitters. Welcome to the Dead Zone.
Wait a minute.
Hear this.
WDZI Digital Broadcast.
Dead Zone, August 25th, for Metal and the Paranormal Collide. Hey, this is Lee. Coming up tonight, we have Ken Gehard, paranormal researcher and UFO researcher. He's going to be on the show. Awesome. You may have seen him on a couple of shows on the Travel Channel, I believe it is. It used to be called In Search Of. I think they've changed the name of it now. It's When Monsters Attack. They have Bigfoot editions. Hey, I wonder what he thinks about the attack on Area 51 or the raid on Area 51 coming up next month. I don't know what he thinks. Well, we might find out later on, but I know what we think. I know what we think is going to happen with a little help from Sweet.
Paranormal news.
Hello everyone, welcome to Paranormal News and Events with Michelle, brought to you by me, Michelle Poi of Seasons of Indiana Real Estate, where you can always find that creepy haunted house or you want to sell that haunted house. Let me know. I can help you. Contact me today at michelle.deadzone@gmail.com. Alright, so this week's story is going to be about the creepy dolls that have been mysteriously popping up in a little town in Missouri called Festus. Alright, now I'm sure there are a lot more stories than the ones that I found, but there have been a lot of articles written about this from mysteriousuniverse.org, coasttocoastam.com, foxnews.com. Let's see, we have the today.com. They even have a story about it. So I'm going to just read little excerpts on some of these so that you get an idea. If you haven't heard about the creepy dolls that are showing up, sometimes they are faceless, some of them are headless, and they're putting them in positions to make them look like they're children, possibly crying, trying to get people's attention so they'll go over and help. The police, as of this recording, do not know yet who is doing this. So this one here is mysteriousuniverse.org, written by Paul Seaburn on August 18th, 2019. Creepy dolls mysteriously appearing in Missouri are unexplained and spreading. All the dolls look similar. They are very realistic. People living in the community said it is not only the dolls that are creepy, but where they are placed that is strange. The crime reports out of Festus, a small town on the eastern border of central Missouri, usually look like those on any other small municipality. DUIs, break-ins, noise complaints, etc. Residents may be referring to those as the good old days now that the city is in the throes of a mysterious epidemic of creepy dolls appearing in odd places that is keeping people and their kids indoors and the police on alert. The worried residents of Festus told local media they're finding the dolls on the ground, on the tops of road signs, hanging from light poles, leaning up against buildings and other strange spots. The locations aren't the only creepy part. The dolls are sometimes carefully placed to appear to be small children, sitting, leaning against a wall, on the ground as if they fell, etc. That causes concerned witnesses to stop and see what's going on, says Police Chief Tim Lewis. If you were to see it from behind, it looks like a little girl. If you're out and about and you see that, it looks like a little girl crying against a pole, and someone is going to stop. In this town, people are good-hearted. People are going to stop to make sure that's not a child. They are going to get hit or they're going to get run over, and then you're dealing with a catastrophe. Excuse me. It's bad enough when they realize they stopped for a doll. What's worse is when they flip it over and find that the doll has no face. Some have no heads at all. The doll leaning against the building has its hands sewn to its face. Many of the dolls appear at busy intersections causing traffic jams. Others are in remote locations. No matter where they are, no one has seen or admitted to seeing who puts them out. Some have quickly disappeared, and no one seems to have seen that either. Sorry, guys. Chief Lewis suspects the culprit or culprits are hiding, watching the commotion and laughing. While the number of incidents have gone down, the local station KSDK reports that at least one creepy doll has appeared in nearby Crystal City. Resident Logan, and I cannot say this name for the life of me, Galsinski, I hope that's right, probably speaks for many people who feel the same way about life-size dolls as they do about clowns. Some think it's linked to the new Annabelle movie, but it could be something more sinister, like the so-called voodoo dolls found last year all over the Russian town of Zventny. Those were the size of adult store mannequins but dressed like schoolgirls. The voodoo part comes from the dolls being pierced by needles, some threaded. That thread finally helped investigators determine that the dolls were once used in puppet theater, then donated to a museum, who threw them out, but they were found and given to a school, which also threw them out, but someone found them in the trash and began placing them around town. That culprit was never caught. Are the residents of Festus and now Crystal City doomed to deal with the dolls forever? Will they desert their towns, leaving them to the dolls like the island of the haunted dolls in Mexico, known as La Isla de las Muñecas? Perhaps Logan Galzinski is right. Dolls are just creepy in general to me. I don't like them. So what do you guys think? Have you read any of these articles? Like I said, there's a lot more that you can read about it, but this was one of the better stories about it, I thought. And hopefully they will find the culprit here pretty soon. Some people do believe that it is a supernatural situation, so I am going to pull that article up next, and I will read you some on that one. Yeah, I really don't know what happened to that story. I went through all the stories that I saved, and there were quite a few of them that I found concerning the creepy dolls, and I cannot find the one that had the link to where the article made it sound like it was more paranormal. And I just did Google searches trying to see if I could find it again, and it was something I had done really quickly to prepare for this. I hadn't read each article entirely, so I don't remember even what website I found it on. So I apologize, guys. I know it's out there somewhere. Maybe I can find it and add it into next week's paranormal news and events.
Your source for everything paranormal, Para-X.
And now for our upcoming events. So if you've never heard of the Stimson Hospital, this sounds really cool. This is in Eaton Rapids, Michigan. So they're going to have a murder mystery. The Stimson Hospital says that the Friends of the Eaton Rapids Area District Library and the Sturgills present the 5th annual murder mystery, Homicide at the Harrison House. It's going to be Saturdays on September 28th and October 19th at 5:30 p.m. at the Stimson Hospital. That is located at 101 West Plain Street in Eaton Rapids, Michigan. A homicide has occurred, and we need your help in solving the mystery. Use your sleuthing skills to examine clues and question suspects as you dine on an authentic Mexican cuisine catered by Los Flores and enjoy a tour of the haunted Stimson Hospital. So if you happen to be in the area there of Eaton Rapids, Michigan, that sounds like a really cool event. So I'm going to talk about a couple events that we'll be at. There's going to be the Horror Hound Weekend in Indianapolis, September 6th through September 8th. There's going to be a lot of cool celebrities there. There'll be Q&A sessions, a lot of vendors. We will be located at the Fact or Fiction Fest area. We'll be set up as Rural Indiana Paranormal and Dead Zone. For more information, you can go to horrorhoundweekend.com. And if you happen to stop in, please come and see us and let us know that you heard it on the Dead Zone. We're also going to be at the Scarefest in Lexington, Kentucky, September 12th through the 15th. There's going to be so many celebrities there. This is a really huge event. A lot of speakers, which we will be one of the speakers. There'll be a lot of vendors. We'll actually be doing our Bare Bones 101 for beginners at Ghost Investigations. You can check more out at thescarefest.com. All right, guys, so if you have any events that you'd like me to talk about, please email them to Michelle, that's Michelle with 2 L's, michelle.deadzone@gmail.com. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
If all radio stations in town were palm trees, we'd be the one with the biggest coconuts.
Here are the one, the only Dead Zone.
Hey, welcome back to the Dead Zone. We've got Ken Gehard. How do you pronounce that? Gerhard?
Gerhard.
Gerhard. Okay. I never can get names right, dude.
No.
I'm worthless.
I don't think it has anything to do with your ability to read.
Well, it might. It might, actually. So we've got Dustin Coffey here with us in the studio. Scott's not going to make it in tonight. That's okay. He's dealing with issues, and that's fine. We understand. But
he's got the new shop working.
Like I say on the phone here, we've got Ken Gehard. How's it going, man?
It's going well, guys. Thank you for having me on tonight. It's definitely an honor and a pleasure to be here with you.
Well, we appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, we actually saw you. Well, Michelle and I saw you a couple of months. Well, not too long ago at Mid-South.
Oh yeah, Mid-South. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What'd you think about that? How'd that go for you?
Well, I always have a good time at Mid-South. This is my second time, and it's been a few years. So it was a new venue. So it was that I liked the venue. That was nice.
Yeah.
A little disappointed on turnout, but apparently I guess there are a lot of dynamics that are involved in organizing an event like that. But I know in the past it's been pretty well attended. So hopefully we'll get back to that next year.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was in the same. It was in the same place for quite a while, and then he changed the venue, and that may have had something to do with it. Plus, we also heard that the city had some kind of 4th of July thing going on too at the same time.
Yeah, that's it. Sometimes just timing and avoiding other competition is a big deal, and weather, and there's so many variables. I've organized one event myself, and it was a lot of work, and a big risk. So it's my hat's off to anyone that organizes an event like that.
Absolutely,
it's a lot of work. Yep.
Absolutely.
Sure. And hanging out with Keith and the guys, it's always a good time. Jason Snyder, Keith Hayes.
Yeah, those guys are great.
Oh yeah,
I'm sorry,
amazing.
I missed it.
Yeah, all of them. Yep, you're right. Great crew.
Absolutely. So tell me, what do you have going on right now? I know you've got a meet and greet coming up in Arkansas. That's my hometown. Home state. Yes, my hometown. Yeah. Yeah, it's my home state. Yeah, I'm from Pine Bluff. I'm not sure where this meet and greet is, though. It's the
Little Rock.
It's Little Rock. Okay, it's like
Little Rock.
Yeah, half hour away.
That's the MacArthur Museum.
Okay, tell us a little bit about that, if you would, please.
Yeah, that's the Arkansas Paranormal Expo. It's been going on for several years. It's like Mid-South, it's a pretty solid, well-attended event. This will be my third time there. I think it's been about 3 years, maybe 2016, and then maybe 2013. So about every 3 years I go up there. I love Arkansas, good people, and in terms of the type of research I do, which is cryptozoology, Arkansas has a lot of accounts of strange creatures, the Fouke Monster. And
absolutely, yeah.
White River Monster and
the
Ozark Howler, and there's a lot of those kind of legendary things up there. So yeah, I'll be October 5th. I think that's the first Saturday in October. First Saturday in October, I'll be up there in Little Rock. All proceeds from the benefit go to the MacArthur Museum, which of course is I understand, the birthplace of General Douglas MacArthur,
yeah.
and it's also famously haunted, supposedly. I've never experienced. I mean, it's a cool old building. I've never experienced anything like that there, but.
Right.
But, yeah.
you know, speaking of that, while you brought that up, you're a cryptozoologist, but have you ever dabbled into the other side? You know what I mean? Have you done any ghost hunting at all? Anything like that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm interested in anything unexplained. So I'm fascinated with supernatural, paranormal, UFOs.
Right.
All those great mysteries are interesting to me. Just not my my specialty. So
right.
But I have been graciously, I've been invited to tag along on a few ghost hunts and paranormal investigations, and I just kind of like a fly on the wall. I like to just see what's going on and
right, take it all in.
What people are experiencing, and there's a lot of similarities in terms of research, a lot of surveillance. That's what we do in cryptozoology. You're out there with cameras and night vision or audio recorders, whatever, and you're just trying to gather a lot of data,
right?
In case you get that one split second where something really crazy happens,
right? Yeah, a lot.
You want to be able to capture that. So.
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of sitting around and looking at each other until something happens. Yeah.
Kind of like fishing,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is.
So you're having a good time. You're talking to your buddies and this and that, and you're just hoping you get a little strike. So I'm fascinated. Probably the weirdest thing I've ever experienced. There was unfortunately, it burned down, but there was a very famous haunted bed and breakfast in Jefferson, Texas, called the McKay House, and it's been featured on a lot of those TV shows and stuff.
Right.
And they were doing a little investigation there one time, and I guess they had something like a ghost box, office, whatever, in the front room.
Yeah.
And I was standing in the middle hallway talking to another guy that's a very skeptical but paranormal guy, and suddenly this big, heavy door to the kitchen, which is in the middle of the house, just slammed shut.
Oh, wow.
And we were both like, holy crap, did you just see that? That just really happened?
Right, yeah.
And of course, we both of us being kind of skeptical, we spent several minutes trying to debunk it. Is there a draft? Is there an air vent? Did someone open a door? Is it rigged? And we couldn't find it. I mean, it's a big, heavy door in an old house, 100-year-old house, and in the middle of the house, no cause that we could find that this door would just slam shut. There was no one around it. So that was kind of, that's the weirdest thing I've ever seen in a so-called haunted location. But
okay, well, that was going to be one of our questions, so you just answered that right there. Yeah, that's very cool.
Maybe he's psychic.
Okay, now let's turn it around. What is the most memorable encounter you've had in cryptozoology?
Oh, well, I've of course discussed this many times.
I know you have. I'm sorry. Now I know.
No, that's okay. You probably have some newer listeners that maybe aren't as interested in or aren't as exposed to cryptozoology, so it's all good.
Right.
I've never seen a cryptid. I've never seen Bigfoot. I've never had a personal sighting, but there was one night in August 18, 2003. I was at a little lake in North Texas with some other investigators. We were camping out, very remote location where there had been some Bigfoot sightings recently, and just after dark we heard something grunting at us from the brush. It sounded like an ape.
In Texas. This was in Texas, yeah.
This is Texas-Oklahoma border, up in the cattle grassland,
Okay.
near Decatur, and this thing was grunting at us, sounded like a primate. I had a recorder going, so it was dark, but I recorded the sounds. I still have them. We all looked at each other and agreed we don't know what that is. All of us are like lifelong outdoorsmen, hunters, whatever.
I was going to ask.
No idea what that is. I know a lot of animals can make strange sounds, but
right.
This is like definitely primate sounding.
I was going to ask when you said that. I was going to, because I'm from Arkansas, Texas, and all around that area right there. Have you ever heard a boar? Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. All right.
I've heard deer and rutt and boars and coyotes making weird noises and birds, all that.
Yeah, but you spend enough time in the woods, you can differentiate.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
This is, if you've been around primates, I've done a lot of field research in Central America, South America, and so I've heard all types of primates, mostly monkeys. But primates have a very distinct timbre to their sounds. It's like they're very, I guess they have very articulate lips, and they're the way they purse their lips and their projections. So, but anyways,
Right.
But not only did we hear the sounds, and we couldn't get through the brush because this thing was about 40 yards from us in some thick brush.
Right.
So we went up to a higher vantage point. There was a levee overlooking this little lake, and we got up on the levee and shined our spotlight down, and we saw some eye shine looking back up at us, kind of yellowish green. It looked pretty high off the ground, but it was hard to judge. And then we went and camped, and there were, throughout the course of that night, there was something that was making these moaning sounds, and I was calling out, and they were getting responses. And then the next morning, when we finally made our way through this thick brush, we got to a little beach where we'd heard this thing, and there were some deep footprints, very, very deep footprints, and there were also some turtle shells, several large turtle shells that had been ripped in half from top to bottom, like yeah, okay, just torn in half.
Yeah,
and you can imagine if there's anything you can think of that can tear a turtle, a large red-eyed slider turtle shell right down the middle, and there was no meat or anything. The shells were just thrown into a little pile. So I mean, all of that together was like, the most convincing thing. I'm pretty convinced that must have been a what we refer to as Bigfoot, just because of the vocalization.
Right. Didn't try any tree knocks or anything like that, right?
No, I'm not really I do a little call blast.
Not a tree knocker.
I'm not a tree knocker per
Okay.
se. I don't, you don't know the language.
Right.
And for all you know, tree knock means go away, and
right.
Who knows? I mean, no, sometimes you get a knockback. That's true. I've heard one tree knock in all my years of Bigfoot research. I've only heard one that I couldn't explain, and that's in many years of field work. So, I know a lot of people have experimented with that, but that's not necessarily something that I focus on.
Well, that's kind of the same thing with the paranormal field too. I mean, there's all kinds of. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody has their own way of doing things, and. That's just the way it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't judge anybody with a different approach, but.
Right.
Yeah, completely understandable. So you've been doing this for all these years, and the most exciting, most memorable experience you've had happened in 2003.
2003. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that.
Right.
Yeah, that is exactly why paranormal and cryptozoology go hand in hand, because it's the same thing when you do paranormal researches and
investigations. Yeah, I mean, you can go to a place that's absolutely just blown out the wall. This place is haunted. Guarantee you're going to get something right there. You're going to go there, and you get nothing. What I mean? That happens.
Oh yeah, stare at hours of footage and.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to point out one difference, which is. I think you guys have more of a challenge as a paranormal investigators, because a lot of times what you're dealing with is almost like, it's not a truly physical presence, right? It's something supposedly that can have somewhat of a physical presence, but it's an energy so it's like, how do you, getting the documentation, the proof for that is much more of a challenge, I think.
Yes.
And moreover, I think a lot of people, this isn't meant to sound judgmental, but I have many, many friends in the paranormal field. It's a lot more about subjective, I felt something.
Yeah,
somebody says, hey, how are you going to disprove? I mean, if someone's sincere, no, I felt something. It's like, well,
absolutely,
okay,
It's more about personal experiences, and
exactly, and you can't question that. Now, I feel like I'm in very good company as a Bigfoot investigator, and I say that because we have these pioneers in our field.
Yes.
So, you have pioneers in your field too, but I mean, these guys, one guy was named Rene DeHinden, one guy was named Peter Byrne, one guy was named John Green. Mm-hmm. These guys all spent like 40 years out in the field looking for Bigfoot since the 1950s until they passed away, and none of them ever had a sighting.
Right.
So, I mean, but they stuck with it, They thought there was enough evidence.
I mean, if you have a passion, that's your passion, and
Sure, that's kind of where I was going with your most memorable experience being 16 some years ago.
But you stuck with it,
and
you're still with it,
and that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm really. What excites me is not necessarily. The experiences are. Yeah, that's something that will change your life, possibly. But I get excited about evidence. and about dots connecting, and you find something, and then you remember that 2 years ago you had this other thing, and they line up, and then you're just like,
right. And another thing that kind of connects what you do and what we do, we kind of dabble into it, but there's not a lot of call for it around here. I mean, there's been a few. I used to get calls from Tri-State Bigfoot quite often about this happened here. That you want to go check this out. Well, okay, when did this happen? 4 years ago. Well, I'm not going to go do that. I'm sorry. There's nothing left. You know what I mean? Sure. But what I was trying to get at is the evidence. Photographic evidence can be faked easily on both sides of the coin here. I mean, sure. So what's really left?
Well, in terms, again, this is the difference. Now, you're right. The vast majority, and like 99% of the Bigfoot cryptid photos out online that people are constantly shuffling to me for an opinion are faked. And obviously, like you said, it's very easy if someone is gifted in Photoshop.
Absolutely.
And it's special effects.
That's my job. That's what I do. I am a graphic designer.
Okay,
I do that.
So there you go. So and there's also the other side of that is that the motivation is there because online traffic is like the new currency. So it's like, okay, let me get 1,000. I got to get 1,000 people to look at this photo. So I mean, it's obviously you have to disregard that. Now in cryptozoology, I have the benefit that you guys don't. I'm looking for my main focus is physical evidence in terms of remains, bones, fur, blood, DNA. If I can find any of that stuff, a hair, I might be able to establish that one of these things exists. And it's not easy to do. No one's done it yet. So,
right.
Sure. That's my focus. So not so much on the photographic side.
Right.
Okay, so in your years of experience, you've been at this a long time. As we've been discussing, sorry, excuse me.
You're right.
What's next for you? What's the short future looking like on your end of things?
Well, I mean, things are always changing, but I have a new book coming out next month, and I've been just working on that for months and months. So,
awesome.
Yeah, it's the Essential Guide to Bigfoot, and it's kind of going to be. It's intended to be for people that maybe are just mildly interested or curious about the subject and just want like kind of a brief primer, or for experienced investigators. There's a lot of information, lesser known facts, and really going back to something we were just talking about. One of my main reasons to write this book was to push back against all of the misinformation and just crap that I'm constantly dealing with, that people are coming to me with, well, I heard this, and I'm like, dude, that's a hoax.
Right.
But I heard it.
Right.
It's like, well, it was disproven 6 years ago. And so it's like there has to be a way to let people know, to filter that out and say, look, if you're really interested in the bona fide mystery of Bigfoot, this is the evidence. These are all the investigators agree on this, this, and this. And you can form your own conclusion, but, you still may think it doesn't exist. But anyways, a lot of the the myths, the kind of the myths around the myth. I mean, you guys probably deal with that too, but you have to dispel a lot of that.
Oh, good Lord! There are people that will. There are people. I'm the bad guy on the show because I'm the skeptic. There are people that will go out. They'll buy a crack house, clean it out, make up a story, and then try to rent it out to people as it's haunted, and make up a story. And that's just so ridiculous. You know what I mean? It is
a lot of hoaxing probably in both of our fields.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, yeah.
People faking things all the time.
Okay, let me ask you one thing. We were just talking about aliens a little bit earlier ago. What do you think about the idea that Bigfoot is an alien? Now you've seen these on TV shows, right?
Yep, I have.
What do you think about that? Do you think that's a possibility, or do you think that's just come on?
Well, I want to point out a little cultural aspect to this question, because I have a chapter in my book about sociology and psychology as a
okay.
I'm all very fascinated with all this stuff. Virtually anyone that ever asks me about Bigfoot and UFOs is somebody that is either a paranormal investigator or a UFO investigator.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
So they already have established biases, either consciously or unconsciously, based on the subject matter that they're interested in.
I agree.
Trying to relate it to something. And that's not meant to be judgmental.
No, I agree with you, yeah.
Everyone has different filters and perspectives, and we all come at this stuff in different directions. But
right.
If you look at the database of Bigfoot sightings, and there's now several thousand alleged sightings in different databases going back to the 1950s.
Right.
I would say out of thousands of sightings, you would be hard-pressed to find more than a dozen or two that mention anything having to do with UFOs.
Right.
So in the percentage is like 0.0001% of the evidence, if you're considering anecdotes, eyewitness reports as evidence.
Yeah.
So it's virtually non-existent. So it's interesting that people are so focused on it because either A, they just, some people think it's cool, it's weird. It makes the whole thing weirder, right? Oh, it's like, oh, it's Bigfoot UFOs. It's really weird. People are attracted to that.
Well, you know what? I think a lot of that has to do with certain television shows that.
Even a television show I was on last night on Travel Channel, they did that at the end of the show. They started getting into UFOs and aliens, and well, it's not my point of view, but that's where the producers wanted to take it. So,
people don't understand that either. A lot of people don't understand. You sign a contract, and that's it. Then the network, the producers, take it from there. You know what I mean?
You put your faith in them, and sometimes they let you down a little bit.
Yes.
But, anyways, again, so going back, not to poo-poo, but what I'll say about the UFO thing, I have a good friend, colleague, and a hero of mine is a guy named Stan Gordon from Western Pennsylvania, and he, in the early 1970s, he was a UFO investigator and started getting all these Bigfoot sightings in the area, and a lot of those are the weirdest ones. There was this case where supposedly this flying saucer landed on this farm, and when they drove out to look at it, there were these two Bigfoot creatures walking around the flying saucer crying like a baby. And there's another one about a Bigfoot carrying a glowing luminescent sphere in its hand. There's even one from Wisconsin of a Bigfoot flying a UFO. So there's all these really weird, mostly from the 70s when you get these really weird stories. So there are some pretty dramatic cases.
I wonder why. From the 70s.
There are some cases on file. You can't completely rule it. I was like, okay, well, there are a handful of these cases where people said the Bigfoot. But
60s and 70s, man.
It's a very small, minuscule component of the Bigfoot phenomenon. Virtually all Bigfoot sightings describe what it could easily be an animal, a man-like animal.
Yes.
It crossed the road, it drank from a pond, it walked into that bush. It's all completely natural things that you would expect any animal to do. So that's what I think.
Sure.
Yeah. Very cool.
And like you said, people are going to form their own opinions, and they kind of drum stuff up and embellish some things here and there. But it's a very interesting point of view. I don't know. It kind of puzzles me a little bit because I've never heard that until you mentioned it, Lee.
Yeah.
I've never heard that theory ever.
Well, I'm a nerd. I watch all the programs. I love all these. Like he was just talking about the one he was just on. He was featured on. It used to be it was In Search Of, right?
It was In Search Of Monsters, and for some strange reason that I don't know, they changed the name to When Monsters Attack.
Right. Well,
so either they got sued, or the network said we like this name better.
Yeah, because it's attack. Yeah, we want to get more people because monsters are going to attack. Whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but it's the producers of Ancient Aliens, Prometheus, who I've worked with before, and I've been on an episode of Ancient Aliens, and they, so it's what they're comfortable with. So sometimes they unconsciously, just like we were talking about our biases, everyone has biases. They have biases toward UFOs because it's made them a lot of money and.
Oh yeah, I mean that's
they're
what
always in the back of their head just thinking, well, what about a UFO? Throw that in at the end,
That's what it's all about, though. I mean, that's what the networks do. I mean, that's what they're there for. If they don't get ratings, then if they don't get ratings, then they don't have a job.
Sure.
Right.
And it's somebody, when a crazy off the wall theory comes out, in my opinion, especially since I've just heard this, that Bigfoot's an alien.
Oh no,
there's somebody out there when that theory was told to them or they heard it, they were like, "Oh wow, they figured it out."
Yeah,
just completely bought into it. Like,
right,
that totally makes sense now. I know exactly why we can't find him.
Right. Yeah, they come. Yeah.
Well, that is something I forgot to mention. That the people that believe that in the UFO or that the Bigfoot's interdimensional is what they say.
Mm-hmm.
How come we haven't found it? And that's not a bad argument. I mean, I wouldn't go to UFO is why we haven't found it, but that is a strong argument against why it could be an animal, because no one has been able to capture or shoot one or find a part of one yet.
Well, I would kind of go. Excuse me. I would kind of go along with the idea of it's such a small population that and they may or may not take care of their own dead. And who knows where they are? Some cave, some hole in the ground, whatever. You know what I mean? Does that make sense at all?
Yeah, and actually one of the theories that I talk about in my new book, The Essential Guide to Bigfoot, is that I think Bigfoot has adapted behavior patterns specifically designed to avoid contact with humans.
Oh, yeah.
That is, in order to they look at us as direct competition. That's a pretty natural world. And if we are their direct competition and the greatest threat,
or a predator, a predator to them,
evolved, So I mean, if they're fairly intelligent and no one's saying they don't have any technology or tools, but they're smarter than most animals, sentient. If they are nocturnal, which most reports are at night, most sightings. If they are nomadic, which they seem to move around a lot, and they're very solitary, often solitary. All of those behavior patterns, which are consistently reported, are pretty good ways to avoid humans.
Yeah.
In addition to the fact that as you said, they're rare and they live in remote areas.
Yeah.
So if you're a species and you're trying to avoid competition with humans and being eradicated, go live where humans aren't.
Right.
Move around at night in the woods, solitary, and you'll have a pretty good chance of not being.
Right, and like you said, be nomadic. I mean, you go from one place to another. I mean, that's the early caveman. I'm going to call them cavemen, whatever. They didn't stay in one spot. They had to move. They moved, with the seasons.
To the food sources, right?
Yeah.
Where the food is.
Right.
Just theories, but I mean that's kind of it makes the most sense when people say, "Why haven't we found them?" Well, they're rare. And they live in remote areas we don't go, and moreover, they're trying to not be found by us.
Sure.
And that's making it more challenging than just finding like any other animal, like a bear or a squirrel or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, not just with Bigfoot, but I mean, the scientists have come out with dinosaurs that actually didn't exist. That they found remains of two different dinosaurs.
Put them together, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got to have that concrete before you start coming out with, well, this is exactly what we've got. But I mean, there are civilizations that we know existed thousands of years ago that we don't have anything left to prove of their existence. So, I mean, we don't know what the lifestyle or how these beings do with their dead loved ones or whatnot. So it's kind of hard to kind of...
Yeah, well, you were just talking about, though, what you just said. I'm sure he can expand on this. I mean, the Native Americans, they have... what do you call them? What's the word I'm looking for? The pictographs and that kind of thing on the walls.
Mm-hmm.
The hairy man, the tall man, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, they have pictographs all up and down the Pacific coast. There are tribal masks and costumes. There are totems. There are carvings, carved heads that look like apes.
Yeah.
Pictographs that look like big hairy apes. And since there are no apes in North America, obviously that's a line of where did all these Native Americans get this picture of an ape in their head if there's no apes
right.
supposed to be here? So
sure.
Yeah, you're true. That's true.
They didn't Google
it. They Google it? No, they didn't Google it.
Google it.
Yeah.
No, and to your point, about discoveries also. I mean, you're right. That's something as a cryptozoologist I'm often trying to point out to people is that there are new things being discovered in zoology. New species are still being found.
Did you, by the way, speaking of that, did you see this may be complete crap, But there was a post that came across Facebook about a mummified herbivore dinosaur that they found.
Well, I think I saw that. Maybe people send me a lot of stuff, but that happens all the time.
I mean, it looked legit, but it's Facebook, and like I say, we can fake anything we want.
Oh, mummified. I'm sorry.
Mummified, yes.
It was mummified, not just okay.
Yeah, there was. It still had the skin.
I missed that part.
Yeah, I mean, it was literally a.
Okay, yeah. I'll withhold judgment. I haven't. I guess I haven't seen that, but
I think it said there was. I think it said there was even still contents in the stomach.
I mean, I know they found some fossil remains with some pretty amazing, considering the last dinosaurs died out 65 million years ago at the end of the Cretaceous. It's like if there can be anything left after 65 million years, that's pretty mind blowing.
Right. Yeah, they were. I think the article said they didn't know what actually happened. It may have been swept out to sea, then sunk, and was covered by the silt or what. Who knows? If I find it, I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you.
That's the challenge in the world we live in is you'll see those types of articles online, and some of them are true and have merit, and some of them may not, and it's hard sometimes to distinguish and tell what's true and what's not. But
very
we'll
cool.
Hope for the best on that.
Very cool.
Maybe Bigfoot uses the remains just like a hunter would in the woods.
Yeah.
Or like Native Americans used the remains of every animal that they killed for food, or they used the hide for blankets and to make their teepees and.
Oh, you mean you're saying they would scavenge their own dead?
Yeah. Why is that not possible?
I don't know. It could be. I don't know.
Yeah, we just don't know. It is all speculation, but there are theories that they might hide their own dead, or, at least if they know they're dying, and a lot of animals do this, they'll hide their bodies. They'll crawl into some low brush or something, like a bears will do that, and wolves and mountain lions. And you'll never find the remains because they just, when they're sick, they're good at hiding themselves.
They go somewhere and die. I mean, even your cats do that. They'll go away somewhere and they'll find a little place. And
it's usually apex predators, which I personally would consider Bigfoot an apex predator as well. They'll do that. So, and there's population estimates, and I talk about that in my new book as well. And it's all just speculation.
Yeah.
But in order for there to be a viable breeding population of these things with enough genetic diversity to carry on for thousands or millions of years, there must be, at the very, very least, 1,000 or a couple thousand of these things spread out across the wilderness. It could be more, it could be a few thousand.
But that's still, considering the size, the continent, there's...
Yeah, considering the size of the continent, that would still very, very rare.
Yeah.
The estimate I make in the book is there's probably 1,000 bears for every one Bigfoot.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very rare, probably close to, it's definitely endangered, hopefully not critically endangered yet. But that would explain another reason why the sightings are so few.
Very cool. Okay, Ken, man, I know you need to get out of here. One more time, we're going to talk about, you've got a new book coming out, and that's going to be out when?
Yeah, The Essential Guide to Bigfoot. I'm shooting for the end of September. I don't have an official date yet, but I have some events starting at the end of September, beginning of October. We mentioned the Arkansas event as one.
Yes.
So it's done. It's pretty much just being edited and kind of laid out and put together right now. But
awesome.
Very cool.
If anyone has an interest in Bigfoot, it covers all the information in a very accurate and entertaining way.
Okay, if anyone wants to come visit you, where can they find you at?
Well, thanks for asking. I have a website, KenGerhard.com. I have a Facebook fan page, Ken Gehard Cryptozoologist. And I believe this weekend I'll be finally launching my Instagram account.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Instagram finally. So I'm working. I'm trying to get there. That's my goal. So,
it's that time of year too, though. I mean, we're all going to different conventions and things. It takes time,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But,
all right, awesome, man. Well, we hope are you going to Horror Hound, by the way?
Unfortunately, unfortunately, no. I have another event that weekend. So
Oh, gosh, dog it.
that's actually it's the first weekend in September. Is
Yes.
that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing a talk already, and I had an opportunity to go, and hopefully maybe next year, but unfortunately, no, I won't be there. But I will say that some of my good friends are going to be there. A guy named Lyle Blackburn,
Yeah.
cryptozoologist, friend of mine, doppelganger, and Bob Gimlin, the guy that helped film a Bigfoot back in 1967.
Yeah.
He's
Very cool.
Bigfoot royalty. He's going to be there.
Awesome.
So.
Yeah. Okay, what about Scarefest? You going to be there?
Which one is Scarefest?
That's in Lexington, Kentucky.
And this year?
This year. The following week, actually.
No, I'm afraid not. I think I believe I've heard of that one, but no, I'm not going to be at that one either.
Okay. Wow. We're just never going to see you again.
Uh-oh.
No,
we will.
I'll be in Toledo, Ohio on October 12th at the Toledo Bigfoot and Paranormal Conference.
Very cool.
Okay.
Very cool.
I've seen that advertised.
A
Awesome.
little closer to, not exactly Kentucky, but...
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much, guys. Go check him out. You know who he is. We appreciate you coming on, brother.
Thank
Guys,
you so much.
Thank you so much. We had some great conversation, and let's do it again sometime.
Absolutely. Have a good one, buddy.
All right. Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Keep it smoking, boy.
Smoking? Don't smoke. Causes cancer.
You know what I mean. Would you just get off a spaceship or something? Colombian gold, man. Grass, hash, the weed. Dig it?
Seems like you're always in my way. Do you ever hear a single word I say? This is Keith Age, and you're listening to The Dead Zone.
Hello, this is Christopher St. Booth, and you're listening to The Dead Zone.
This is the Dead Zone Paranormal Radio Show. Thanks for listening.